Hi guys, so we are going to go through, this is the first of 3 lessons where I'm going to teach you guys how to write a race response. You guys will write in this way for me for the remainder of the year. A lot of times when I ask you to respond about something, I will tell you that it's going to be a race response. So you need to know exactly what I mean and how I expect you to be writing. So the very first part, which is what we're going to talk about today, is the R and the A in race. So race in total stands for restate, answer, cite, and explain. So we're just going to go over restate and answer today. But first, let's have a conversation about ... So you're going to hear me say that. You're going to hear me talk about something called an ellipses. You use an ellipses. You guys have seen these all over. They're these little guys that pop up. People use them all the time and they kind of use them incorrectly. And so I just want you to understand how I'm using them and how you can use them. So when I use them, I am usually showing you that I've left out something, that there's something you should put in. You use an ellipses to show that normally. But just because you see that I've used an ellipses, it doesn't mean that you should put an ellipses in your sentence. I'm only using that to show like, hey, students should put this little ... in to show that something is left out, or I have put that in to show you that something is left out and that you have to fill something back in. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I, for example, do this, give you this question, what is your favorite color? And I might give you a sentence starter. I might say, my favorite color is ... I put that ellipsis there because I want you to put something in. So you don't have to do this. My favorite color is green ... in the middle. Don't do that. I only put that ellipses there to show you to put something there, but you don't have to continue it. You can just write this sentence. My favorite color is green with no ellipses. Okay? All right, so now that we have that all down, so RACE stands for, like I said before, restate, answer, cite, and explain. Now it's got 4 parts, but usually only 3 sentences. It could be a minimum of 3 sentences. The reason why is because restate and answer are one sentence together. So restate and answer join together to make one sentence. You have that beginning, the ... right? And then the answer that I'm expecting you to plug in. After that, you have the citation, which is the cite or citing evidence. There's a couple of different ways to kind of say it. It's where you give me evidence to prove your answer. You have to back yourself up. Then the explain sentence that comes after that. You're explaining how your evidence, your cite, proves your answer is correct. So you can't just say that, let's say, American eagles are no longer extinct, and then say in 2001, American eagles grew in population. You have to explain to me how those 2 things are connected. And that's what the explain part is. It's the very end. But like I said, we have a couple of lessons. We're going to be going through each part of this. All right, so let's talk about the restate. Okay, so the restate is the question from a writing prompt. You're identifying the subject or the focus of the question. Then you start a sentence with that subject, and usually the verb, and any extra information that was needed. So for example, that sounds kind of complicated. It's not. For example, so here's a good question. Why did Paul Revere ride through the towns? Well, what's the subject of that sentence? The main thing we're talking about is Paul Revere. Paul Revere doing what? Riding through towns. So if I want to flip that into a restate and change it into a sentence, I'm not going to put in why did, because those are question words. I'm not going to use those. I'm going to start with my subject, Paul Revere. Now you're going to notice I don't say Paul Revere ride through the town. I change it so that the verb tense is correct. Paul Revere rode through the town. And then I add this guy on. I add on a transition word. So transition words can be a bunch of different words. You can say because, until, is, when. There, it kind of depends on what you're going to be saying. So you'll kind of have a good feeling for what to put there. It's just really going to depend. You're going to use because a lot, though. I would say that's probably the number one word that's used. Okay, moving on to our next slide. Here's some more examples. So for the question, what is the weather like in Ohio? My subject, weather in Ohio. The weather in Ohio, transition word, is. Okay. What is the setting of the story? The setting, that's my subject. I need to add a verb onto the end. I could just say the setting is, but for the answer, I put the setting of the story is. Why did the man throw the flag? So here's an example of where you're gonna have to change the verb tense. I have the subject, the man. The man did what? I can't say throw. I have to change it. So it'd be the man threw the flag. And my question word was why. So my transition word is going to be because. The man threw the flag because. Who is playing soccer this year? Now this one's a little bit different. The reason why it's different is because the who, when I say is playing, I have to put my answer in the beginning of the sentence rather than starting with the subject. So notice my ellipses, my little dot, dot, dot is here in the beginning. So I would fill that in, then add in the rest of my restate. Blank is playing soccer this year. All right. So answering the question. After restating, you answer. But how do you do that? You have to use your own background knowledge and inferences. Now, hopefully you've heard the word inference before, but if you haven't, the word inference essentially means reading between the lines, things that you got based on what you read. So if you read that somebody was angry and throwing things in a room and their face was red, you could infer that they were upset. You could infer that they were angry. That's an inference. And you use background knowledge and inferences all the time, and you use them especially when you read. So I have a little example here of, different knowledge that you might have about a topic. And this is an example of something that I would have known. Before we had COVID-19, I knew there was a Spanish flu in 1918. And it was really, really difficult for a lot of people. So I might use that information if I was, for instance, answering a race response about it. Okay. So this is just a little bit of information to help you understand exactly what background knowledge and inference means. So again, background knowledge is knowing about something before you would have learned it. So, for example, Juan was a baseball player and the reading topic was about baseball. So he knew terms like foul ball and grand slam. He had background knowledge. John had never played baseball, so he did not know what those words meant, and the whole text was confusing for him. You have background knowledge versus you don't have background knowledge. Whereas an inference, an educated guess or reading between the lines, you consider facts and evidence to reach a conclusion or opinion that makes sense. So you don't just, jump off the handle on something. You use what you know to make a choice. So for example, if an author suggests that a character's lips quivered and a tear came from the corner of their eye, you could infer that the character is about to cry. Okay, so we are done here. You're going to go do a little bit of practice now on Edulastic, where you practice restating the question. Okay, let me know if you need any help.